I think it's a comedy. I think it's a horror comedy. Grandpa beating the girl and he looked damn good, beating Caroline Williams on the head, her screaming constantly. You know, I mean, that's something, you don't see that often. That's way over the top, you know. There's a lot going on in that movie, so I enjoyed the hell out of it. I believe somebody named Henry Klein called me about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, right? Big surprise to me. I didn't know they were doing it because I knew that Tobe Hooper was doing Invaders from Mars. I think he only had a week between finishing Invaders from Mars and doing. So I had a lot of respect for Tobe having almost no prep time to do, you know, Chainsaw 2. So I was kind of excited. The guy who did a classic like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you know. But I hired a crew. You know, Henry was approving all this stuff. Really happy and glad to get Sean McEnroe because, you know, he was Rick Baker's right-hand man for a long time. Gino Crognale, who was recommended to me. Gabe Bartalas, who I've known. John Vulich, who worked with me on Friday the 13th, final chapter. Bart Mixon, yeah, he was one of the top guys on the crew. Great sculptor, fun guy, you know. And Mitch Devane, yes, who was recommended to me, right. You know, he's the guy that actually sculpted the Leatherface mask. I wanted it to be a couple of people, which, you know, he did, and I supervised the whole thing. Gino Crognale sculpted all the skinned appliances for LG, and he did it in the dark corner. Gino, do you want some light? Oh, he's fine. He did it all in the dark. What else? Gabe, he was in the foam room all day making all the foam latex appliances, blasting music as loud as, I mean, it was, I couldn't deal with it. But I would go into the foam room and stand right behind Gabe and scream his name as loud as I could, Gabe, to get his attention. I finally had to just hit him. He would turn around and I would get his attention to, you know, to tell him what we needed. I love Austin. I have been to Austin many times to shoot with Robert Rodriguez. But back then, I had no idea that 6th Street existed, that any of the nightclubs or any restaurants, because we went from the studio back to the hotel. They put us in this lush hotel called the Mansion or something. And we requested, please put us in a hotel with, you know, separate rooms and a big courtyard, you know, and a kitchen, you know, please. So they moved us over there. There was a swimming pool. It was great. But that was up the highway from Austin, maybe 5 or 6 miles from the studio where we shot. In fact, every day we looked forward to the race home. We wanted to beat our time from the day before. And it was the scariest ride you can imagine, where sometimes I would drive, sometimes Gino would drive, you know. It was always a race every night. Sean and I collaborated on a lot of how to create some of this stuff, like the guy's head that flips open in the car, the yuppie. We did it with a balloon under the piece, you know. We designed it to be shot a certain way. You know, it's a little sports car that they're in, and I am stuffed. It's a 2-seater, but I am stuffed in the back behind those seats, operating the fake head and, you know, squeezing the, because the car is moving, okay? And I'm squeezing the bulb to make the balloon expand underneath the actor's head. So what you were supposed to see was the chainsaw attacking the car, the actor, blood coming out of his head, and the top of his head rising. And then from behind, with the top of his head risen, the blood squirting out. Well, they cut to the actor, right to the blood spurting out. You never saw the head. You never saw the head kind of separate, you know. So that got laughs. The script was pretty descriptive as to the look of Chopped Up. All we had to make a plate that you could see, and there was still skin around it, and he's scratching it with a hanger, so it had to be raw. The teeth is something we did just to make him look horrible and weird. Bill Moseley, of course, was a riot every day. We loved hanging out with him. And we convinced Bill Moseley to shave his head, which saved us like an hour and a half. We would have had to put a bald cap on him, and he wouldn't want to go through that torture himself. So anyway, he shaved his head. In fact, when you look at the video from behind the scenes, there's a lot of stuff with Bill Moseley sitting there in the makeup and me asking him questions as his character. He didn't have to do that. Maybe he thought it was a pain in the ass. But he would actually start getting into character with the teeth in for me, sitting in the makeup room. And there's some pretty cool video of Bill Johnson's wearing the mask and he has the teeth in and he's practicing talking. He says something like, I remember that as part of the footage, So again, we were doing things with him that we were doing with Bill. Hey, could you talk like I don't even know if he thought about the character yet, but he started practicing, So yeah, we have a lot of footage of that. I thought she was great. She spent her days screaming her lungs out, and avoiding the chainsaw. I didn't have to do anything to her. No, I didn't do anything to her. Yeah, I didn't kill her, I didn't cut her up. But she was, no, I fell in love with her. In fact, I cast her first in my Night of the Living Dead, but she couldn't do it. And only because I thought she was a tough chick. I mean, look what she does in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He was a riot. He was like if you met a jolly old hillbilly somewhere, that's Lou. He was hilarious. He was great to work with. And we had to do like a body cast on him to do all those pieces. His makeup that was another 2 o'clock in the morning with him on a slant board. You know what a slant board is? There's elbow rests and you're standing upright. And all of us were working on him at the same time. Gino was maybe doing a leg, I was doing a chest, John was doing the face, And there's some pretty cool video of him dancing in the street, skinned. And what's interesting is we did a separate face cast of him. Because when he's skinned, there's still skin around the eyes, there's still skin around the mouth. So we had to make a piece of what would be his face that she lifts up, And one day she put it on him and it fit. It fit perfectly around those flesh pieces around, yeah, anyway. So we were pretty amazed by that. I got to pick the actor that played Grandpa. They just lined up a bunch of guys. I looked at who was the skinniest, who had a skinny face with bone structure, and he had deep set eyes, okay? And he looked like a skull, so. Of course we cast his head, and we just simply used the Richard Corson book and did exactly what Dick Smith did to Dustin Hoffman for that old age makeup. We did the same exact thing to him. John Vulich sculpted all of that, and helped apply it. It took 9.5 hours the first time. And we made them up 13 times and they didn't use them. So we got the makeup down to about 7 hours, And really, we made him up, got up early, 2 o'clock in the morning, to do that makeup, and 13 times they did not use him. So we asked him to complain. As an actor, we're just the makeup people. So we got him to complain so they would finally use him, okay? But I'm very proud of that makeup. I'm very proud. Tobe Hooper, when he first saw it, that's the best old age makeup I've ever seen. And we actually begged Tobe to do a close-up because we had those special lenses in his eyes.
Get in there, Grandpa.
All right, now just lick and chomp like that and smile, zoom.
Tobe was calm, collected, yelled, but only yelled so you could hear him, not in any kind of bad way, And he was always smoking a Monte Cristo cigar and drinking a can of Dr. Pepper. Always. He threw away the Monte Cristo cigars when they were still about that long. They were still worth $20 when he threw them away. I bought him a hat with containers for the Dr. Pepper cans with tubes so he could drink the Dr. Peppers while smoking a Monte Cristo without making the effort. They were just there. There was a refrigerator on the set full of boxes of Monte Cristo cigars and Dr. Pepper, I completely associate Tobe Hooper with Dr. Pepper every time I have one. And sometimes smoking a cigar, I'll think of him because, we shared those things, So. We were amazed with Kerry White. What he created, that was just a printing shop, He turned it into that horrible dining room, prop, hoarding, atmosphere, and skeletons and, that was, but the worst was the amusement park, the abandoned amusement park. We were always scared we were going to touch something and get cut by some rusty piece of metal, We spent many nights in that place. While we were at the mansion, I bought a remote control police car, and we would sit outside and wait for people to come out and follow them with a police car because it had a button where you could press it and the flashing lights would come up and a siren would go off. So one night Dennis Hopper came out and we followed him and made the police car and it scared the fuck out of him, okay? So now he came over and sat with us, and he wanted to do it to people, and he did, to people coming out of the hotel. So Hopper became one of our pals, okay? And one of the things that he would do on set was, before Tobe Hooper would call action, he would just spin. He would stand there and spin and spin and spin, and when Tobe called action, he would stop, and something was going on. He physically made his instrument part of his performance, made his body and that was brilliant, I thought, Well, Dennis Hopper, You expected craziness out of this guy. We did a whole sequence that's not in the movie with the Hook'em Horns parking lot thing. We did a lot of stuff for that. Hands coming off, a hand. It was actually my hand in the truck that gives the finger, But it looks like a severed hand, okay. I had to throw body parts under a truck so they would land. There's video of this, land in position where he had the camera. And it was Nude Arnold that shot that stuff. Because Tobe was getting, 4 or 5 setups a day. Because he would come out and say everything he wanted to do, and then one by one people would walk up and talk him out of it. Well, what about blah, 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 you can't, blah, 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 blah. And, hours were going by, and so 4 setups a day. Nude Arnold showed up, bald with an eye patch, He looked like something out of an Erich von Stroheim Nazi movie, okay? And he would say what he wanted, and if somebody tried to say anything, it would be, no, it's my turn. He would say what he wanted, and they would go do it. He would go, okay, what did you want? But meantime, they're doing what he said to do. And he was doing 28 sit-ups a day. None of what he did wound up in the movie. Well, Eddie Serkin built the actual Steve Martin arrow through the head chainsaw. You know, you could see the thing spinning going into Bob Elmore, and in the back of Elmore, it would be spinning in the same direction. And that was something that Eddie Serkin built, you know. He was the physical effects guy. And when I first met him, we were talking about what we needed. He said, you know, I said, we're doing the grandpa makeup, we're doing the fake head of the yuppie, we're doing, you know, the leather face mask. He says, oh, great, then I don't have to do it. He actually said, oh, good, then I don't have to make that stuff. I'm not quite sure he would be able to make that stuff, okay? Anyway, but anyway, he was Eddie Serkin. He was the physical effects guy, and he was a trip. He was very good at what he did. And there was another guy, Daniel Miller. He's the guy that sculpted the mama that falls apart, that crumbles up in the tower. And we gave him our skull mold, and he was whipping out skulls. All those skulls that were laying everywhere, Daniel Miller built. I bought a motorcycle from him before the show was over and went into the truck that we shipped home. When we realized we were done, okay, we all were in our work clothes. We all went to the pool and lined up, all of us, and just fell face forward into the pool. Oh, now I'm reliving it now. That was such a sense of freedom because we knew we never had to do anything else because we were working our asses off in that movie. You know, 2 o'clock in the morning, grandpa makeups, Bill Moseley's makeup, you know. So we were so happy not to have to do anything else. And our bodies hitting that pool was like a big gush of freedom. And we were going to go home shortly thereafter. When Texas Chainsaw was over, Bart Mixon called me and said, hey, Tom, I'm coming to Pittsburgh. I'm doing a movie in Pittsburgh. Do you want to come visit the set? Oh, well, what is it? It's something called RoboCop. No, I don't think so. I could have been there because they shot across the street from where my school is now. They shot the whole end sequence with him and his face and the robotic shit and the fight and the mushy guy that they shot all, and I could have been there for that. Every time I see Bart, we talk about that. It's one of the things I regret after Texas Chainsaw 2 not doing, visiting him on, you know, RoboCop. One time, a friend and I, a couple of friends and myself were sitting in a restaurant, and we counted all the shitty movies I've been involved in. And we came up with 29 of them. Then we counted all the good movies that and there were 34 of them. Well, 35 now with the Black Phone, okay. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, that's way up there as one of my great projects, you know.